Hey everybody, I'm here with my March wrap-up and April TBR for you today. In the month of March, I read all of these things right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 things. Which is, not a whole lot by BookTube standards, but for me it's pretty good, so I was pretty happy with that. And the first thing that I completed in March was something I've already done a review on, which is the Scandalous Sisterhood of Willow Place by Julie Berry. Just to give you a quick synopsis, again, you can watch my review if you want to know a little more. It's about these 7 girls on the cover right here who go to a boarding school, and the headmistress, the book opens and they're having tea with their headmistress and her brother one day, and they both take a bite of the veal that they are eating at the tea and drop dead immediately. And so the girls decide that instead of reporting this to the police, they are going to bury their headmistress and her brother in their garden and run the school by themselves and have a little bit of independence, because they all have really horrible home lives for one reason or another, and they don't want to have to go back to their home, so they decide that this is the best alternative. Obviously, it's a book centered around dark humor, so if that's your thing, I would definitely suggest this. It's really fun, the writing is great, it's very witty and clever, and I just really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So that is that one. And then the next thing I read was actually a graphic novel, and that is Zeta the Space Girl by Ben Hatke. This is about our character Zeta, right here on the cover, who finds this contraption one day with her friend, and they press the button on it and it opens a portal to another world, and her friend is sucked into the world, and so she has to go and find him and rescue him and hopefully bring him home, and she meets many friends along the way. And it has a great cast of really quirky characters. It's kind of a whimsical tale, which is definitely the kind of thing that I really enjoy. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, I believe. It was very good, and I'm looking forward to carrying on with the series very soon. And I love Ben Hatke. He's one of my favorite illustrators. He does a lot of good work. And let me just show you some of the art on the inside. Stuff like this, kind of more muted color tones. I really like it. There's another one. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this if you want a nice middle grade fantasy graphic novel series. And then the next thing I read was the 10th book in the series of Unfortunate Events series by, of course, Mr. Lemony Snicket himself. This is The Slippery Slope, and I definitely really enjoyed this one. We're starting to get some more answers as to what exactly is happening with the Baudelaire orphans, so that's nice. I only have 3 books left to go. It's one of my resolutions to finish this series by the end of the year, so I am on my way. And I just love reading these books. They're very quick reads. Even though they're getting longer, you can fly through them in a day or two. And they're very enjoyable, of course. The writing of Lemony Snicket is second to none in middle grade, in my opinion. So this was very enjoyable. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars as well. And then the next thing I read was, unfortunately, a bit of a disappointment for me, and that is Noah Barley Water Runs Away by John Boyne. I had been greatly looking forward to this book for a number of reasons. First of all, the more superficial reason is this cover. I just think it's beautiful. And it is illustrated by Oliver Jeffers, who is another one of my favorite illustrators. I love his work. And he has illustrated, I think, all of John Boyne's middle grade novels. And so I own all of them. And I was very excited for all of them. And this was the one that I wanted to start with because the premise appealed most to me, although all of his middle grade books sounded very good to me. But this one is about Noah Barleywater, who runs away. Shocker, I know. And he gets to a few towns over from his, and he discovers this odd building, and he finds out that it is a toy shop. And so he goes in and has a conversation with the old man who runs the toy shop, the very odd old man who runs the toy shop, and it's just about him coming to terms with something that's happening in his life that he's very upset. And I was really looking forward to it because, I mean, it sounds just like the thing I would like. It's whimsical, it has some elements of magical realism in it, which I really love, but the premise sounded great, but the execution was not so good. The writing was a little strange for me. It was very simple. There was not a whole lot of description, which was kind of a disappointment. And also, it was just the sentences were a lot of just run-on sentences, and that makes sense because the narrator of the story is Noah, who is a little boy. Obviously, he's going to speak in some run-on sentences sometimes, but I don't know, it just didn't quite do it for me. I wasn't a huge fan of the writing, and it wasn't very descriptive, like I said, which is not something that I usually go for. And the quirky elements, some of them were nice, but some of them, they just were stated and weren't really, explored more and given that detail that I really need, personally, to find them effective. And so I was just very disappointed in this. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, which it might even be a 2 out of 5 stars, unfortunately, upon further reflection, but it wasn't horrible. It was just I had such high expectations because I thought it would be something that I would just absolutely fall in love with, but unfortunately that was not the case. So that one was a bit of a disappointment for me. And then the next thing I read was also kind of disappointing. It's Miss Rapp Scott's Girls by Elise Primavera, and also this cover, gorgeous. Come on. This is about Miss Rapp Scott, who runs Miss Rapp Scott School, Great Rapp Scott School for Girls of Busy Parents, and she has 5 pupils. Only 4 are pictured on the cover there because one of them doesn't make it to the school at the beginning like they're supposed to, and they have to search for her. That's one element of the book, but it's about, she runs this school for girls of busy parents who, so if the girls' parents are too busy to take care of them, they can ship them in a box over the sea to Miss Rapp Scott's school because the school is set up in a lighthouse. And this book has been compared to Mary Poppins and stuff like that, and I was very excited because it seemed right up my alley. I love books about, not so much boarding schools, I do like that, but kind of like governesses and things, and that's kind of what it made it sound like Miss Rapp Scott was going to function as to these girls, and so I was really excited, but it kind of let me down too. I don't know, kind of the same thing as Noah Barley Water. It wasn't extremely descriptive, it was very simple. The whimsical elements that were described were cute, but they just didn't go far enough for me to make me just fall in love with it. I was hoping it was going to be quite like the Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place series, which is one of my favorite middle grade series. I just think it's lovely, but the writing in this was unfortunately not as good as that, so it couldn't carry the story to that high of a level for me. It's a shame because it is such a beautiful book. I think it's lovely, and it's also illustrated by Elise Primavera as well. Things like this, which are just beautiful. I think it's lovely, but unfortunately the story didn't quite make it there for me, so I gave this 3 out of 5 stars as well. And then the last thing that I completed in the month of March was The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark, which, just a little side note, I just noticed as I pulled this out to put it in this video that the little covering over the cover, the little seal that gives it the feel that it has, the smooth feel, is a little bent up right there, which is totally my fault. It didn't come that way. I guess I just shoved it in between books in the bookcase too hard. I don't know, but it makes me very sad. Anyway, alas. So the story is about Miss Jean Brodie, who is a 30-something spinster working at Marcia Blaine School for Girls. I think that's what it's called, something like that. And she has a very unconventional teaching method that gets her in trouble with the headmistress and makes her not so liked by most of the other teachers in the building. And she has, in her class one year, she develops a particularly close relationship with, I believe it's 6 of her students that she calls the Brodie set. And they, even after they leave her class, after the 2 years that they spend in it, because she teaches in the junior school and then they move up to the senior school, they still spend a lot of time together outside of school, and it's just about their relationship with each other, and more importantly their relationship with Miss Brodie, and how that kind of starts to take a darker turn. and how Miss Brodie kind of manipulates them in a way. I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. The writing was great. I really enjoyed it. I definitely want to read more by Muriel Spark. And it's definitely actually kickstarted my interest in modern classics, so I'm going to be picking up some more next month, so that's exciting. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So that is it for my March wrap-up. It was a pretty good reading month overall. I was pleased with it. I enjoyed most of the things I read, except for the 2 disappointments that I mentioned. And so now I'm going to give you a bit of an April TBR. I'm not saying for sure that I'm going to stick to this. I haven't ever done a TBR, of course, so I don't know how I will work within that. But the thing I'm reading right now is something I mentioned in my Friday Reads, Fairy Tale, One Woman's Search for Enchantment in a Modern World, a memoir by Signe Pike. I'm so sorry, I'm sure I totally messed up that name. But I'm just a little bit of the ways into it right now. I spent last weekend finishing up The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, and then this week I haven't had much time with my schoolwork and everything I've had to do, so I'm hoping to finish this up, but I'm really enjoying it so far. And then the next thing I hope to read in April is The Enchanted April, how appropriate, by Elizabeth von Arnim. And it looks like I've already read this because I have these tabs in here, but I just read the first chapter a few months ago and then put it down. Not because I didn't enjoy it, I actually loved the first chapter that I read, but for some reason I just decided to put it down in favor of other things. So hopefully, and I've been wanting to read this for such a long time, ever since I heard of it over on Leslie's channel from Words of a Reader. She has excellent taste, and I usually enjoy everything that she enjoys. So, and I think she liked this. She might have given it a 4 out of 5 stars. She read it recently. But I am very much looking forward to reading this and then watching the movie, because I just recently discovered that the movie is on Netflix, so I was very excited about that. And then the last thing that I think I want to get to in April for sure is Clanford by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is a Penguin English Library edition, as I'm sure you can tell, and it will be my first Penguin English Library read. I got this one and one other one, Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, for Christmas this past year, and so I am definitely looking forward to getting into these, and I think I will really enjoy this. It's about, as far as I understand, is it set in the 19th century? Yes, 19th century village. And it's just about the lives of, I think, the women mostly in that village. Is it a village of mostly women? Yes, centers on a community dominated by women and governed by old-fashioned ways. And I think it's just about their relationships with each other and maybe with an outsider that comes into the town. I'm not totally sure, but I'm greatly looking forward to this. And there's also a BBC mini-series adaptation of this, I believe, that stars Judi Dench, I think, so that should be incredible. And it used to be available on Amazon Instant, but I think they took it off just recently, so that's a very disappointing blow, but eventually, hopefully it'll come back on or something and I can watch it after I read the book. Alright guys, that is all I have for my March wrap-up and April TBR. Let me know in the comments what you read and enjoyed or didn't enjoy in March, and maybe some things you're hoping to get to in April. And I will see you soon with another video.